Hey y'all, welcome back to our channel and welcome back to our studio apartment.
Welcome.
I know, you missed it, right?
I didn't.
So the most asked question that we get in our comments from our friends and from our family.
How the heck do you live in such a tiny New York apartment, nonetheless, with another person in 380 square feet? We thought no time like the present. Let's answer this question for you.
We wrote down a little pro and con list and we're gonna take you through it today to let you know what we think would be helpful to know before considering moving to New York City or thinking of downsizing.
Or maybe you don't want to move to New York City at all and you just really enjoy watching people live in a tiny space and feel really good about your 4 acres in Iowa.
All right, let's get started.
And you may be saying, 380 square feet? Why, Lucy, I watched your apartment tour a year ago and it said 450. Well, that is because this week we found out from our landlord that it's a lot smaller than we thought, and that explains a lot.
It's true, and what actually made me ask my landlord how many square feet we're living in is because I was watching another apartment tour of 450 square feet, and I was like, that place is humongous compared to our place. I was like, I don't think we have these numbers right. I texted him, and sure enough, he said it's less than 400. So we're guessing 380.
So, you decide you want to move back to New York. This is a completely hypothetical situation, by the way. It's post-COVID, you just got married, your first home together back in New York City. You start doing a little digging. You're looking for a 1-bedroom. Just one.
Just one.
Just 1 bedroom.
Just a little 1-bedroom.
Tiny little 1-bedroom to lay your head on at night. And then, boom.
Excuse me?
Are you freaking kidding me?
Did I just see what you saw?
Are you kidding me?
Wait, no, that can't be real.
It's real.
It's more real than we'd like to admit. So in New York, you go small or go home.
Absolutely.
Unless you got loads of cash.
Which we don't. So that's what happened. And that's how we arrived in a little home where our bedroom's in the same room as our kitchen. Obviously, overall, you're like, wow, over $5,000 is a shocking amount for an average apartment in New York. But you're like, maybe that's just factoring in like the amazingly nice places, people who want 5 bedrooms. No, because the average price of a studio is $32.95. So I'd say we're getting a pretty sweet deal for $2,500. You laugh so you don't cry. And you may be like us and you just genuinely can't afford the 1-bedroom of your dreams living in New York City and you just have to make some sacrifices. And an obvious pro of living in a small space is you do end up saving money. We're essentially paying $1,250 per person for our $2,500 studio apartment, and utility prices are also really low. That's the obvious pro of living in a small space.
Next up. Forced minimalism. Welcome to our closet. You might be thinking, y'all have a lot of stuff for living in a studio apartment, and you'd kind of be right. But we did have to downsize a lot of our things before moving here. We were previously living in California before we moved to New York, and I'd say we got rid of about a third of our clothes before moving out here. And it's definitely a pro because a lot of the things that we had in California, we honestly just didn't need. And to be honest, we could probably go back through our closet right now and still find maybe half of the things in there that we still don't need. So if you're someone like us who it kind of takes that little bit of effort to reorganize your things or go through all of your clutter and get rid of things and donate, then living in a small space could be a potential awesome pro for you. Welcome to our next point, which is
a strong bond with your roommate.
Aww.
Ow.
Hey, roomie.
It's so creepy to call you a roommate.
So creepy. When you're living with someone in such close proximity, obviously you have to learn how to communicate a little bit better than you probably communicated before, because there are some assumptions that just aren't to be assumed. Who's using the desk? Who's using the couch? Who's using the kitchen? And when you're married, it's a little bit different, obviously. But you have experience living with someone else in a studio before.
Oh my
living
gosh,
in New York.
yes. My entire time pre-COVID, before we were married, living in New York, I shared a studio apartment with one of my best friends. In fact, we even had bunk beds for our first year here. It was very tender. But we were really, really clear communicators. You really have to be on a similar schedule if you're gonna be sharing a small space with someone. But if your personality types line up and you don't mind communicating through things, and you don't mind those tiny conversations, it's gonna be a breeze.
Then you'll have a closer bond with your roommate. So get yourself a roommate and get yourself a small space, because this is definitely a pro. You will be close with that person that you're living with, and you'll have stories to tell for years to come. So, truth be told, living in a small space, it forces you to get outside more.
Absolutely. I'm definitely a default homebody, but I have been outside so much more this year.
And that's a pro.
It is such a pro. I have enjoyed walking more than ever before in my life.
Since we both work from home, we oftentimes like go to the library, go to the gym, go to a coffee shop, get work done there.
Yeah.
It feels like you have a strong excuse to just like go outside and be different places.
It's true.
Before hopping into the cons, here are a few things that you probably haven't thought of when living in a small space.
Every single time you need to change a piece of clothing, you gotta close the blinds.
When she's on meetings, I have to take phone calls in the bathroom. It's the only private room in our home.
We put our baking items in our coat closet. All right, let's get into the cons. Con number one, the most obvious one, lack of privacy.
So when you're living with another person, like we are, in a studio apartment, things like working from home become a lot more challenging because of that lack of privacy. But if you're living by yourself, lack of privacy is still an issue. If you're wanting to host people or have friends over, they're pretty much seeing your whole world in one room.
If you are living with another person, you do have to find intentional ways to get alone time because of that lack of privacy.
It's true.
All right, the next con is entertaining guests. Obviously, we don't have a dining room table. And one thing about living in a small space is you do have to sacrifice the areas of the home that you just take for granted in a bigger space. That honestly doesn't stop us that much. Like we just hosted friends for dinner last night. We all just put our little dinners right on this table, our drinks, and we all just kind of like sit in a circle on our couch. So the thing is though, New Yorkers understand. People here understand. No one judges it, but we do. We dream of the day that we are going to have a dining room table. Okay, this is by far the hardest part.
It's the worst part of small living.
It is the fact that you constantly are tidying and organizing. Like
always.
3 times a day minimum are we picking stuff up and then doing the dishes.
It's dishes, it's clothes scattered everywhere, it's shoes on the ground.
Because it takes 5 minutes for this place to like fully explode. It only takes like 5 minutes to pick it back up. It's daunting and you gotta do it for your sanity.
Yeah, for sure. You have to pick this place back up all the time. If you've watched any of our vlogs, you'll already know that that is probably what we consider the worst part of small living, especially when it comes to dishes. In New York City, oftentimes you just don't have the luxury of having a dishwasher.
We definitely don't have that luxury.
We don't, and we have a very small sink, and feeding 2 people, it's just a lot of dishes to get through in a day.
It is.
I would say though, this is probably a con that shouldn't steer you away from small living. It just is what it is.
You know how some people with like a 4-bedroom home have like a junk room? We have one option.
Clean it up or get it out. So you might get a strong bond with your roommate, but you also might have increased tension if you're living together in a small space. Obviously, this only applies to the people who are living with another person, but... Wait, is that my toothbrush?
No, this is my toothbrush.
That's my toothbrush.
I literally promise this is my toothbrush.
Lucy, mine's the green one.
Chandler, I promise you this is mine.
Like that.
Just like that.
The last con is lack of storage space. Similarly to how the pro is forced minimalism, the con is lack of storage space. They go hand in hand. If you want to live in a small space, you just can't have as much stuff as you may have had previously or as much stuff as you would like to have. It's kind of another obvious con of living in a small space, but it's important to note, and because you have to be clever with some storage space, oftentimes some of those items that you really like sneak away in hidden corners, you just end up not using them as much either, so I'd maybe add that as a con too. All right. Let's recap. If you had told us over a year ago that we would be living in a studio apartment, I genuinely think we would have felt like it was really daunting. We would have laughed at you. I think there's definitely been some hard parts about it, but I think we were able to do it a lot easier than we realized. It took a lot of intentionality. It took a lot of like assessing our needs, and also knowing that it's just for a season of our lives is really helpful. We just re-signed for year 2 in this apartment, which is very exciting. So we hope that this video encouraged some of y'all who are on the fence of deciding whether to move into a smaller space. Know that you can do it. It wasn't our intention to live in a small space like this, but we've made it work, and we think you can make it work too. Let us know in the comments if anything we said was surprising about living in a small space. I'm very curious to hear your feedback. And for those of you watching from your 4-acre farm in Iowa, thanks for staying to the end. We appreciate you. Until next time. We'll see you later. See you later.